How's everyone doing? Thanks for joining me on my small engine repair channel. Today's project is on this Craftsman branded push mower with a Kohler XT6 engine on it. And the problem the customer's having with it is he was running it and it started puffing smoke and died. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on with it and see if we can get it back in service. Alright guys, so this looks like a pretty decent mower, self-propelled bagger, single point, height adjustment for the wheels. Everything is good for features on this thing. The wheels don't look like they've had much use even for rear wheel drive. It's still got plenty of tread left on the wheels. The big concern here I see, first off, obviously, is the obvious, the oil on the deck. That kind of corresponds to the smoking that they were talking about. There's only a couple spots that oil can come out of one of these engines. So from what I can tell is it's kind of concentrated underneath the air filter side. So this is where the carburetor is. Let's take a look, see how the air filter looks. My first thought is always someone overfilled the oil. I see that far too many times. It's such an easy fix and people throw away perfectly good mowers for that. So the filter, although it looks kind of stained, it's not, saturated with oil, which is a good thing. But inside the air filter housing here, there's definitely some oil kicking around. You can see the oil, collecting there in the throat of the carburetor. It's all in the air filter area. Let's take this little guy off, and there is a PCV hose, so crankcase ventilation, that allows some ventilation from the engine to come out through, and sometimes there's a little bit of oil mist. If the crankcase pressure builds up, then it'll blow that pressure out here, and then if there's a little bit of oil mist in there, it will actually get burned up in the combustion process. So it definitely looks wet all the way up through here. See if I can get this hose off. These things are notorious. I've had plenty of these things where they just sop oil out this PCV tube, and I'm not a big fan of these Kohler engines just specifically for that purpose, to be honest with you, or for that reason. So let's see if we can get this thing to start. I'm pretty sure he said he got fuel in it. So yeah, and he's a landscape guy, so I can guarantee you it's definitely fresh fuel because they probably go through quite a bit of it. Let's see if it is actually in fact overfilled. Actually, yeah, if anything, there's no oil. So that is not a good sign. All right, so the spark plug wire is attached. So I am going to just try and get this thing to start and see if it will start. The choke mechanism is closed, so that is the way it's supposed to be. So let's take a look, or let's try this thing out, see if it will fire up. So there's very little compression. On this thing. When I pull the cord over, it's actually very easy to pull. So there might be a compression problem. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and just spray some carb spray in the throat of the carburetor and see if it pops off at all. If it does, that's probably a carb problem. So that's definitely not it. The next thing I usually do, I'm trying to go through the easiest steps first. Next thing I'm going to do is to check for spark. So I'm going to get a spark tester here and hook this up, see if we have any spark. Alright, so it's a little maybe hard to see here, but we're looking for an orange glow right in this area where this light bulb is. It's just harder to see when it's daytime here. So we'll take a look, I'll pull it over a couple times, see if we got spark. Alright, so you guys saw there was definitely spark. I took out the spark plug here and it looks like it's a little bit on the wet side. So that means it's getting fuel, it's getting spark. And let me just take a look here. Let's look closely at this spark plug. Look at there should be a gap in between the electrode and the post, and I don't see a gap there. So here's one thing that you might want to try. Sometimes if there is spark going to the spark plug, maybe the spark plug itself is bad. Alright, so I have you up on the bench here just to take a closer look. Yeah, so the spark plug could be bad, or in this case, potentially, and here's hoping, because this will be a super easy fix, there could be a piece of crud that's actually preventing the spark plug from sparking. Because it's already grounding itself out across that electrode. There should be a gap, 30 thousandths inch gap. And right now, it looks like there's a piece of crud that's actually crossing that gap, which could prevent it from sparking. To test my theory, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull this into the garage where there's where it's a little bit darker. And then what I'm going to do is hook up the spark plug to the spark plug wire and ground out the spark plug to probably the muffler here and see if it's actually producing spark across the spark plug electrode here, because maybe it's just a matter of cleaning out that crud. Alright, so again, this might be difficult to see, but what I'm going to do is try and pull the cord, and I'm going to see if there's any spark coming across this spark plug here. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get this, pull this hard enough with my left hand, with one hand. Alright, so I have to look at the footage here to see if there's actually spark coming across there. Alright, so I don't know if you guys saw that, but I didn't see on the video, although it was hard to tell, I didn't see any spark coming off the spark plug. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this spark plug, redo this test, and see if there's any spark. If there's no spark at the spark plug, then we'll have to assume now that the spark plug is actually bad. Alright, so I've cleaned up this spark plug, and most importantly, I've cleaned up the gap between the electrode and the post, and now you can see, and I've re-gapped that to 30 thousandths of an inch, so it's ready to retest for actual spark from the actual plug. Alright, so focus your attention right here at the end of the electrode, just to make sure we can see some spark crossing that gap there. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely spark coming out there now. So this could be just a case of having a piece of crud on the end of that spark plug that was preventing it from actually sparking. There was spark going through the wire to the plug, but it wasn't enough where the spark wasn't able to jump that gap and then fire off the fuel in the actual cylinder to try and get this thing to run. All Alright, so let's see if this is going to actually get this thing to fire up. So nothing there. Let's try and give it some help. So that seemed to do the trick. I didn't want to let it run too long because it's low on oil. Get some oil in there. I think the carburetor, again, I'm not sure why it's blowing oil. This might be a separate problem because this thing does tend to blow oil. What I'm going to do is kind of take this off, put some oil in. I'm going to watch this thing, and if it starts dripping oil out of the tube, then I do have a video where I show you how I fixed these. When it's dripping out of the tube, it's a little more complex, so I'll put a link down below for a separate video on that. But I'll just show you a quick update once I get it running, and have had it running for a few minutes.